Welcome to WagerTalk TV. Matt Holt from CGT Sportsbooks in Las Vegas. I'm Scott Spreitzer from WagerTalk.com, and we are talking UFC 216 fight card at T-Mobile Arena on Saturday night, Center Strip in Las Vegas. Can't wait for this one. I like the main event here, Matt. I like the fact that we're going to see Tony Ferguson take it on Kevin Lee. I like the way these guys are going at it a little bit after the last fight that Kevin Lee fought and the little battle going on between these two. We saw Kevin Lee basically in his last fight submitting Michael Chiesa by rear naked choke. And I think Tony Ferguson, when he talked to him after the fight, and it was being broadcast, and he basically said, you got him with a DDT, and then Kevin Lee started making fun of him for his WWE references. And it was a real great setup for this fight. Check out the video on YouTube. As far as the line is concerned, we've got Ferguson opening about minus 240, minus 230 thereabouts. If we would have talked about this fight a week ago, we would have been saying minus 230. He's come down. He's about minus 210 at CGT. Come back on Kevin Lee at plus $180, and I'm guessing he's going to be a huge liability for CGT Sportsbooks. Yeah, absolutely. Our biggest liability on the UFC 216 card. No surprise there. We constantly get Kevin Lee money. I host a podcast with UFC Hall of Famer Stephan Bonner down at the Palms called The Final Round. We've had Kevin on a couple times. This might be one of the most charismatic young fighters in the UFC. What people don't realize, Kevin Lee's only 25 years old. This kid is unbelievable. The run that he's on right now. And the great thing about this fight is both of these guys also have vulnerability to striking early in fights. We saw it Tony Ferguson 2 fights ago against Lando. Vannata got head kicked in the face in the first round, almost finished, came back and stopped Vannata in the second. Kevin Lee also 2 fights ago, Francisco Trinaldo, looked like he had Kevin Lee out in the first round. Both these guys susceptible to strikes. Both of them amazing in the scramble game as far as getting submissions. This is going to be a really good fight. Look, I've been saying that Tony Ferguson is the best lightweight in the world now for 3 years. The problem is Tony Ferguson's starting to get a little bit older, and all of a sudden Kevin Lee's starting to mature. You know, we always talk about that jump. I was just going to say, is he ready yet to make the jump, Kevin Lee? I think he is. We always talk about that jump with fighters that are so young. So he started at 20, 21 years old, and that when you hit that 5-year mark of fighting against elite level competition, you know, you have such a high ceiling that you can learn, and all of a sudden he's 25, fought all these top-ranked guys, and he looks like he's ready. I don't know if he's ready for Tony Ferguson, because Ferguson is certainly the deserved favorite here, but he's going to have the crowd support on his side, as Las Vegas loves Kevin Lee. He's originally from Detroit, but he lives and trains here now, and he will have all the Vegas support Saturday, and it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, they call him a Motown phenom because he's from there, and you know, the arm reach, the leg reach, all about the same between these two guys. But when you look at Ferguson, you're talking about landing about 2 more strikes per minute. Does that add up? Make it official for us on this particular fight. Who are you going with between Ferguson and Lee? I love Tony Ferguson and everything, and I've went against Kevin Lee in the past trying to put my emotions aside. I'm not doing it here. I'm going with the hometown guy. This is an emotional week here in Vegas. We went through such a tragedy Sunday night. And I think it's great that we have a hometown fighter on this card who's representing Vegas, and I'm not going against him this week. If this was a pick'em, maybe I'd take Tony Ferguson, but at 2-1, I'm going with the red-hot young prospect in Kevin Lee. Quick thoughts. We got about maybe 45 seconds to a minute here that I wanted to ask you about. Demetrious Johnson. I mean, I love watching this guy fight. You know, he's diminutive, but he's powerful as can be. Dynamite comes in small packages. He's laying 1,400 over Ray Borg. This fight was supposed to take place a couple of cards ago. But he's won 11 straight title defenses. He can break the record on Saturday night, talking about Demetrious Johnson. Yeah, the only flyweight champion in the history of the UFC, Demetrious Johnson. The one thing here to consider, and we saw it a few weeks ago with Amanda Nunes, this is the 3rd straight fight where a fighter withdraws. They fight again a couple of months ago with the fight rescheduled, and with nothing happening in between, public disdain for the fighter that originally withdrew drives the line. This line was minus 1,000 when they were going to fight 7 weeks ago. Now it's minus 1,400 because nobody likes Ray Borg because he pulled out the day before the fight, but nothing changed. Ray Borg's only 25 years old. Just like we talked about with Kevin Lee making the big jump, I certainly wouldn't want to be laying minus 1,400 against a 25-year-old who could make a big jump and shock the world Saturday night. I've been talking to you about UFC for about 2 years now, and you've built a lot of bankrolls, so give us one or two Matt Holt bankroll builders for 216.
All the way down the bottom of this card, first night on UFC Fight Night, Matt Schnell opened to -180 favorite, down to -145. He's gotten knocked out in his 2 UFC fights. Matt Schnell doesn't look like he's ready for UFC. On the other side of it, journeyman Marco Beltran went through the UFC Ultimate Fighter Mexico, fought a bunch of tough dudes, had an up and down career, had a great training camp. Actually, he's going to a good gym now, starting to put the pieces together. At plus, you may not even be able to get +125 right now, as a lot of people recognizing the value right there. But first fight on the card, Marco Beltran, take that plus money before the plus monies are gone. This one could actually flip-flop from -180 to Beltran actually being favored. Grab those pluses while you can with Marco Beltran.
Great stuff. And be sure to follow Matt on Twitter at Matthew Holt VP, because if anything happens between the time we shoot these videos and the actual fight night card, he will be on Twitter explaining what happened, guys who didn't make weight, guys who might have struggled to make weight. Very valuable information before you pluck your money down on UFC 216. Don't forget, Thursday podcast. They're up late Thursday night, Friday morning. Dave Kochen, Marco D'Angelo, Matt Holt, and I, we break down Saturday and Sunday football action. And the Las Vegas Sports Line radio show, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. Check that out also. More videos to come. All the guys will be up here. Brian, Ralph, Marco D'Angelo. Plenty of football to talk about. Stick around.